Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Well, as you can see, today is Wild Card Wednesday. Mike Michaels has the day off from the show, and I'm joined by my friend.
Good for him.
I'm joined by my friend Fred, who you may know. How are you doing, Federico?
I'm good, man. It feels like forever since we've been on a show together, right?
Doesn't it? I mean, I was sick last week, so we didn't get to do our crossover show.
Yeah.
I kind of shortchanged you guys, so we're going to make up for it today with a special show that's going to cover a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Fed, we have a big announcement to make, and it's from both of us.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Essentially, Talking Hands are back. Watch reviews are back.
That's
right, Tim?
a fact. And I've got a review for every watch you see on the table here tonight. We have a new channel. The Talking Hands channel is called Watch You Want Watch Reviews.
Very original, but it works.
So tell our friends how they can find it if they want to subscribe.
Absolutely. I put a link in the description. It's also in our suggested channel section on our channel page. But take a look in the description. It's called Watch You Want Watch Reviews, and subscribe there. We're releasing 2 to 3 watch reviews a day of things we have in stock, and some of them might not be in stock by the time you watch the video, but a great way to see a hands-on experience narrated by Tim here about a watch you may be interested in.
Yeah, it's our goal, which we've always had, of basically a talking video encyclopedia of watches. And I've got everything on the table tonight, from a Patek Philippe 5960p annual calendar flyback chronograph to an FP Journe 30th anniversary caseback hybrid silver rose gold tourbillon. All of this stuff is going to be on our new channel. It's exactly the kind of video channel I wanted to watch when I was a watch enthusiast on the outside looking in.
Well, yeah, because it's less editorial content like this channel is. It's more straight to the facts. The watch is hands-on, case measurements, technical details, stuff like that.
And for those of you who said the broadcasts are too long, boom, average time of 6 minutes on the reviews.
Nicely done with that, by the way.
Thank you so much. And Federico, by the way, we've heard your hue and cry. We'll be time-stamping the video in the description box below this broadcast so you can jump to the part that you like.
Absolutely, because these longer episodes, we talk about multiple subjects, and a lot of people have been saying, guys, I don't want to watch the whole video, I just want to, hear this part of the discussion. We will be time-stamping everything moving forward.
Basically, it's like with everything else in this world today. You want to watch the recording and cut past the commercials. So, Federico, speaking of cutting past the commercials, we've got the news.
It's true. Well, why don't we get started? For the news, well, of course, Zenith, right?
Zenith, absolutely. Well, before we do the new news from Zenith, let's talk about a watch whose name is going to cause all sorts of confusion.
Even with me, until I got corrected.
Okay, so from our friends at HYT comes the HYT-HO or H0. That is how it's pronounced, folks.
H0.
H0. Okay, now that we've clarified that, from the home of the modern-day clepsydra comes a lovable, lugless, liquid flyback regulator. And yes, it is all of these things. It's actually a retrograde flyback that uses a combination of 2 fluids, one clear and one colored, to display the time. So, okay, guys, 49 millimeters, tie or tie DLC. It's a big watch.
I always go normal titanium instead of DLC. I think it lasts longer, it's easier to refinish, as opposed to almost impossible to refinish.
Yeah, I mean, this is the fact. In this modern day and age, we have alternatives to DLC to make a watch black. But I'm going to say, because of the size of the sapphire in this one, if you do go with the DLC version, you might have better than a snowball's chance in the proverbial of keeping it unmarred, and I'll get to why that is in a moment. So 49 millimeters, titanium or titanium black DLC. It's the old caliber 101. I say old, it's about 5 years old.
Well, it's their trusty caliber 101.
Exactly. Their anchor caliber, their launch caliber. 65-hour power reserve scale on the dial. It's 4 hertz. It's a traditional Swiss lever escapement. 35 joules, nicely hand finished, but where it really sets itself apart is in the way it uses a sort of pump-driven liquid time scale to actually display the time. Now, if you've never seen one of these things, we have a little bit of an illustration of how it works, and it's still the only watch built with actual predator blood. to trace the arc of the hour across the dial.
Man. You know, and for all those times I said the Swiss watch industry no longer innovates, I should really bite my tongue in this case, right?
Okay. Well, you know, they did like to say at SIHH, it's the most American Swiss watch because that medical grade sapphire tube inside the watch is made in the U.S.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it's got a little bit of Hollywood to it.
See, sapphire made in the U.S., I'd think Asia, but I guess it's such a complicated shape. It's got curvature to it that they needed, you know.
They have to dynamically form it while it's molten. So it's a pretty cool process. They've got a cool video of that on HYT's website. Check it out later, not now. But the bottom line is that the new H0 has a soft spot in my heart because it immediately reminds me, since it's lugless, it reminds me of my beloved JLC E877 Snowdrop.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a little bit of my beloved, well, not, you know, I've never owned one, but I've always wanted to, the Icopod.
Yeah.
Very similar to like a Mark Newson designed Icopod. Hemipod was the name?
Hemipod, yeah.
Yeah.
Isopod, Hemipod.
It's just one of those great designs that was very underappreciated and could be picked up for pennies on the dollar maybe 5 years ago, but now good luck trying to find one.
Yeah, honestly, all this is like, along with the old Hemipod and Isopod, this new H0 is almost like Bruce Goff came back and designed a futuristic wristwatch. It's got a sort of naturalistic influence in it, which is a first for HYT, which has been machine-inspired. I guess you could call the skulls naturally inspired, but not in a sensuous, positive, soothing way. Inspired by architecture. They say this is like a pebble that's been smoothed in a stream.
Well, it's engineering at its finest. It's taking an old world problem like telling the time and bringing it into the 21st century while still using, you know, mixing newer and older technologies, you know, Swiss classical watchmaking with this new form of reading the time.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because I mentioned that there might be a chance of keeping this black DLC case from getting scratched all ugly, and the reason for that is the epic sapphire. The sapphire on this thing, I mean, it looks like it's big enough. If you were to pull it off the watch, it's big enough to use as an ice cream scoop. This is one hell of a sapphire.
It's impressive looking, and once again, I hate to keep talking price, but I'm wondering how much that cost them.
You know, it's interesting because this is by far their most impressive sapphire yet, and the new H0 is their most accessible watch. It's not cheap by any means. I mean, we're still talking there. You can see the sapphire on top of the titanium black version.
Nuts.
But they've got 3 versions. And for $39,000 US, you can choose between titanium and orange, black green, which is the DLC.
Is what you'd get, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
We know that by now.
I need accessories to match my glasses, of course. I need a watch just for that. If you've ever dressed to match your watch rather than the other way around, you already know that you've done this. Okay. And finally, there's Thai blue.
Yeah, I'd probably go blue. You know my fetish for blue. And actually, on that note, we should probably do a wristwatch
Yeah,
check.
let's do a wrist check.
Well, let me start. And I am wearing my IWC Vintage Collection Engineer with that blue dial. This is the Laureus edition. It's simple. It's got the Albert Peloton winding system. It's a time only with a date. But boy, am I just in love with that warm dial. It's really hard to pick up on camera, but I really do love it.
And you want to know something? I know in the past you've said that in terms of depreciation value, that was the watch that forced you to take the biggest hit. But, you know, looking at it today, I can't say that you'll ever realize that loss because I can't imagine you selling that watch.
Oh, no, this will never be sold. It'll fit. It'll find a hole in my collection everywhere I go. As a dressier sport watch or a sportier dress watch, either way.
We got a comment right here from one of our users who says, the blue one looks like something out of a hospital. He's not talking about your IWC.
No,
he's talking about the H0. It does have a little bit of a Scrubs vibe coming off of it, doesn't it?
It looks very clean, kind of
antiseptically
clean.
Okay, I'll say the combination of the polished tie and the white and the blue. But yeah, wrist check. This is my this is actually a watch that's been getting a lot of wrist time lately because there's been a lot of auto racing. March and April is when Formula One, international sports car racing, U.S. domestic IMSA racing starts up. And so I've got motorsports on the brain, and you guys know I'm always in the market for my next car. So combine all those inclinations in the time of year, and I'm wearing my Amvox pusherless chronograph. You basically tap the case when it's on the wrist and it starts the chrono, tap it again to stop, tap it at 6 o'clock to reset it. To me, this was like a concept watch came to life when this was shown in late 2005. You look at the depth of the dial, the inspiration from automotive imagery without being painfully literal. You can see how the chronograph hammers are actually visible at 6 o'clock. You can see the watch, although 44, wears so elegantly and easily in titanium. On my tiny wrist, this thing wears well. Combine the look of the watch with the history of JLC, or I should say Jaeger instruments in European sports cars, and there's like 80 years of history behind this thing, plus a monster concept watch look and concept watch engineering. If this thing said Richard Mille on the dial, trust me, I wouldn't be able to afford it.
And another thing, this is one of the few watches that 44 sounds large, but it does not wear anywhere near like a common 44 44 millimeter sized wristwatch.
Yeah, in fact, I'll do an actual wrist check here. That's my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference. This watch wears great. I'll also say that this watch, I just mentioned the Monster Sapphire on the HYT. This watch had one of the most ambitious sapphires of the mid-2000s on it. It's a big, tall box section thing that pretty much makes it a bezel-less watch. And when you think of it that way, you can't think of too many watches that aren't iridescents that are basically bezel-less watches, and this one is. So that's my watch tonight, guys. Now, Federico, we didn't quite finish up the HYT bit. I just want to mention, guys, the watch at $39,000 US compares to $55,000 for the H1, the original H1. So you can see there's a pretty big price delta, and it's
a little bit
in the favor of the buyer to buy this one. You don't see, especially considering the movement's the same and the Sapphire's a monster, I wouldn't have expected this watch to cost, $16,000 less.
No, it's a little...
Economy's a scale,
shocking.
maybe?
Well, I think they're also looking at the economy, period,
Yeah.
and seeing that steel sports watches are dominating.
Yeah, steel or tie.
Vacheron came out with the Steel Coup d'Ile, Piaget with the Polo S. Everybody's going down market.
Yeah.
And I think for the sake of generating a little business, they decided to do that themselves.
By the way, guys, there's a new blue dial Steel Coup d'Ile that is shockingly gorgeous. Off topic a bit, but I will say this. HYT making 450, 400 watches a year. Buy this, you're going to be in an exclusive club either way.
Oh, very exclusive. You'll never see another one in real life unless you go to like a meetup or something.
Oh my gosh, I've got auto. Every time I bring up cars, people start recommending my next vehicle. And I've got from Adam suggesting, Tim, buy the new Porsche Panamera. I mean, that's like saying Rolex Submariner. It's kind of hard to argue. I guess 911 would be like Rolex Submariner.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Panamera, we're talking Yachtmaster?
Yeah, I think so. Not a bad suggestion. He knows I have a fetish for the big CL coupes, and he's trying to steer me away from a $10,000 suspension repair bill. Adam, I salute you. So, along the lines of new news and watch news, Zenith names a new CEO. Is there an echo in here?
Oh, a new CEO at Zenith. Really? Is deja vu?
Exactly. It's like Groundhog Day in the watch world. Zenith has a new CEO. This time, Julien Tournaire, a 2-decade veteran of the watch industry, most of it with Vacheron. Has the game of musical chairs stopped?
No, it hasn't. In my humble opinion, I'm sorry. I love Zenith. Mr. Tournaire, I wish you the best of luck. But no.
Quick, before we jump head first into this topic, this is from John T. Federico. How many Brooks Brothers shirts do you own?
Probably a good 30. See, here's the thing. In my other job, back in my Richemont days, I was suit and tie every day. Now that I'm down here in Miami and what you want is a more casual work environment, I rock the polos every day. It's a lot more comfortable, but I do have them color coordinated and over 30 of them in my closet.
Yeah, he's not quite at the level of Italian superstar cyclist Mario Cipollini, who said in the early 2000s he had to buy a new house to fit all his suits, but he's getting there.
Slowly but surely. I do have a Brooks Brothers fetish when it comes to polos.
We'll keep you updated. We might be getting free Xenia suits, so,
We'll let you guys know.
Speak out. How do you want to see us dressed? Comment below the video, because this is an ongoing topic of discussion in-house. Okay.
It is.
Everything below the glasses, those stay.
Forever.
Eternal. Okay, so Aldo Magada was named Zenith CEO in May 2014 after former CEO Jean-Federico Dufour became more powerful than you can possibly imagine Jedi style and ascended to the top spot at Rolex.
Yes, which is actually a shame because Mr. Dufour is who brought the brand back and was doing exquisite things with the brand. I mean, it's a multi-year, if not a multi-decade process to rebuild a brand like Zenith, and he was doing a great job. But once the big gold crown comes knocking at your door, you can't say no.
Consider the musical chairs game going on at LVMH watch companies, and then consider the offer to become the 6th ever CEO of Rolex. I love Zenith, but I don't even know if I could turn down that kind of offer. And I'm a quirky guy.
Exactly. And then, Mr. Magada comes in, who, in all fairness, a couple questionable partnerships.
Yeah, questionable partnerships.
But ultimately, I don't think he was doing that bad of a job. I mean, Zenith is a tough brand.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem with Zenith. First of all, they had a bit of a rudderless product strategy under Aldo Magada, but I'm not sure that was his fault, because Zenith's icon is like faceless. It's a movement. What's Zenith about? Well, the El Primero. What does El Primero look like? Whatever it's in, including Concords, including Ebel.
Zenith Daytona, Rolex Daytonas back in the day.
Yeah, this is an industry that, while it's built on engineering, is defined by emotion, most often expressed in terms of the finish on movements or the look of the watch. People talk about that old Royal Oak from 1972 like it was made of gold, even though the first show examples were. I digress. But the bottom line is very few people remember what movement powered it. Everyone remembers how it looked.
Exactly. So you take that, and then you also take the old CEO, Mr. Nataf.
Yes.
And let me say, it's much easier to destroy a brand than it is to build a brand up.
Okay, I'm going to step up to the defense of Mr. Nataf in a moment, but you're absolutely right about how things sort of went off the rails. It was not all bad, but yeah.
It wasn't all bad, and I actually like him. Everybody knows I like excessive watches, and that's what Mr. Nataf did. But that doesn't mean they'll sell well, right? The Defy collection is almost like a running joke in today's watch community.
Defy Extreme, especially since it's actually spelled with an X, because you got to spell it with an X so the kids will take you seriously, right?
I mean, exactly. And also, have you seen, there's still one selling on Amazon, a Defy Tourbillon, for $118,000, I believe, and some of the most hilarious fake reviews you've ever read in your life.
Well, some of the most impressive, new old stock lingering tales have come from those Defy Extremes. I found one new at a dealer. When did they stop making it? 2008. How new could it be?
How many thousands of dollars of service does that thing need?
All I know is that thing's going back to Zenith with a little note, please make it prettier. But the bottom line is I actually respect those watches to a large extent, and I think there's actually a lot to take away from the Terry Nataf era that was positive. But today we're talking about the musical chairs. I think Magada was a little bit of a scapegoat, and top-level micromanaging went wrong while he was still in power, but someone else was meddling. I have this picture that Faylene will throw up from before Mr. Magada was essentially shown the door, but Jean-Claude Biver took an immediate interest in the same kind of ambassador promotion, especially with the Rolling Stones. When we talk about the questionable partnerships, I feel like that was his influence, and I feel like it was being done while someone else was technically in the chair.
I can kind of agree with you on that. More so than not, though. It just this new appointment of Mr. Julien Tournaire.
Yeah.
I don't see what that's going to change compared to Mr. Magada. I mean, Mr. Tournaire was head of Raymond Wheel, and then he was 17 years at Vacheron, mainly heading the retail division in Southeast Asia. And so he was with an established brand. He never had to pioneer anything. Southeast Asia and Vacheron, that's their most important market. So essentially, he just had to make sure he didn't turn the wheel too hard on a ship that was going the right course.
Yeah, and especially since that brand for so long was defined by the leadership of Juan Carlos Torres, it wasn't hurting for direction from the top.
Exactly, and for a gentleman to be put into 17 years of a position where things went extremely well, but he never really had to face adversity, I don't know that he's got... Not to be, I don't know if he's got the stones for a brand like Zenith, is what I'm trying to say, not to be vulgar.
No, and here's the thing. Even counting the 4 years of relative stability under Jean-Federico Dufour, you're still saying that in the last 7 years, there have been 5 CEOs of Zenith. So that's setting the stage. But I'll say this. Magada deserves credit for a couple of heartfelt efforts, including the DeFi El Primero 21, which came out this year, but it literally came out a few months after he left. Watches are in development for seasons, for whole model years,
even
like several.
Decades, even decade plus. Sometimes.
Like this movement development could go back to the Terry Nataf era. So the bottom line is that I give Magada credit for the new DeFi 21, which is a spectacular piece, and last year's very sensitive and thoughtful reedition of the Chronometro Tipo 2, the CP2. That was a great effort and worth mentioning as a Magada watch.
Absolutely. It's all the other things, like the Hodinkee partnership. I know we've given Hodinkee a little bit of flack. I think was pretty smart on Zenith's behalf.
It was a good looking watch.
But I think it's like the Cohiba stuff and the Land Rover stuff and the Rolling Stones stuff.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones. What do they have to do? I mean, other than you could say, hey, the Rolling Stones were a big deal in 1969. And that's when the El Primero came out. Boom!
Yep. Connection. Instant, partnership opportunity right there.
So, yeah, my head continues to spin, but I hope cooler heads prevail at Zenith and they get down to the business of defining the brand. Because once you have that answer, and it's not an easy one to find, then you can start creating watches, you can start styling watches, you can create an ad campaign that's coherent.
And I really hope they find their way because they really and wholeheartedly, they make a great product. They're a great watchmaker. They really are, at least in my opinion. I think you share that opinion.
Absolutely. They're a great brand. And honestly, there are design icons from Zenith, but they're the kind of icons you and me and Fed relate to as watch guys. There's nothing that's transcendent into the realm of pop culture, like the Rolex Submariner, the Omega Speedmaster, or even watches like the Patek Philippe Nautilus and the AP Royal Oak. So Zenith needs to work on that. Good luck, guys. I will say this. Speaking of the Rolling Stones, a little bit of sympathy for the devil. Terry Nataf, the master of overkill, definitely did some good things for Zenith, including updating the manufacturer, creating the company archive/museum, putting a lot of money into R&D on the technical side.
Oh, a ton.
Most of the current high mech complications were developed or started under Terry Nataf, and he provided money for that. Plus, the currently fairly successful vintage tack that Zenith has taken with the Pilot watches, with like A386 reeditions, tributes to the 1969 models and the Chronometro CP2 more recently.
Like the Montre de Reneuf Pilot watches.
That started with the new vintage 1969s in 2009 before Terry Nataf left. So I'm giving him some credit. His artificial island in Dubai and his hunting falcons will be missed by some sentimentalists,
and
myself
let's
included.
not forget, should we give him credit for inventing the smartwatch when he made Slide, that company that lasted a year?
I'll give him credit for being a pioneer. I'm not sure he invented it, and I cite the Casio calculator watch as example enough. A. Okay. So, a couple of questions coming through. Let's go to our chat box because that's a big part of what we're doing.
Let's see what's happening.
Simon Holt giving us a shout out from Northern Ireland. Welcome, and thanks for staying up to join us. Question coming in from James E. Adams. Asking about Faylene and will we ever see her on camera? Yes, we will. Faylene is a big star who deserves camera time. Honestly, I'm such a camera hog, I haven't really given it to her, and Federico's no better, so we're working on a solution there.
She's certainly prettier than us, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and probably... Quite honestly, probably a more natural presence in front of the camera because I'm a writer and he's a salesman, so between us, we're winging this thing.
Yeah, totally wing it. No idea what we're talking about.
Okay, so this is coming from Paul Ratherham. Hi, Federico. What are your thoughts on the Tag Heuer Monaco Steve McQueen edition, the blue face, and also Bullhead? What do you think?
I really like it. I mean, they made 2 remakes of it. I think there was a version with a plexi crystal. It was 38 millimeter. That's the older version. That is my preference. It especially came on a great bracelet. But the new version with the sapphire, it's got a beautiful blue dial. Retail, it's a little expensive, but I think it's a great looking watch. It's an icon, and pre-owned, probably trading just under 3, probably in the mid 2s. I think it's a fair purchase, absolutely.
I'll say this, guys. I think we're on Steve McQueen re-edition, like number 4 since 2003 from Tag Heuer. So if you like the look, you do have options. None of them are identical to the original, nor are they identical to each other. So take a look at the 4 different Steve McQueens that have come out since about 2003 and decide the one you want, because you might be able to get like 95% of the watch for 60% of the price if you buy an old one.
Absolutely, and I think the first re-edition, the original, is probably my favorite.
Question from Javier Turan. Fed, we are waiting on your Miami watch by. When is it going to happen, and what is it going to be?
Oh man, I have no idea what it's going to be. As for when it's going to happen, I can guarantee it's going to happen this year. But at the moment, it's just I'm still trying to, settle in here in Miami, and I don't want to make a mistake with the Miami watch. I fall in love on a weekly basis, as Tim knows, when I run into his office, and I'm like, take a look at this. I can't believe we have this.
And actually, we've got a little bit of that going on the table. Okay, Fed, of the watches we've got on the table tonight, guys, let me just say that this is the best collection of watches we've ever had on the table. I actually brought it back from the Monday show because, honestly, this stuff almost deserves a show by itself. But Fed, take us through what's going on here. Which is your Miami watch of these?
There's my Miami watch, and there's the watch I would have to buy.
Your dream watch.
The dream watch, which is not a Miami watch, has got to be this FP Journe.
That's the T30.
T30 Tourbillon with the Hunter case back in silver. That if I snap open.
Yeah.
Right there.
Let me help you with the
focus.
Let me help you with the focus there. I'll be your hand model.
Yeah. There we
So,
go.
guys, this is a crazy watch because, first of all, it's literally a line-for-line movement recreation of FP Journe's first pocket watch from 1983. You can see that big, slow-beating 3 Hz tourbillon cage, and it has continuous black polish across the cage bars, which is awesome.
I mean, this doesn't tickle that ostentatious taste I have, but this is just fantastic horology.
This is a monster watch, and I was actually at the New York reveal of this in November 2013 at their boutique there. It's not often that you see a case-back tourbillon. It's even less often that you see a watch featuring a silver case. This is a sterling silver case with rose gold bezel
With that
and rose gold
natural
case back.
tarnish. You see that natural kind of varnish it's getting on the silver.
99 pieces. This is actual case guilloche too, guys, on both the case band and the case back. They actually used a rose lathe on that sterling silver. This thing's a monster, and I'm a JLC purist, a hardcore JLC guy. This thing moves me emotionally exactly the same way JLC does. And like I said, I've got a little bit of history with it. I was there for its New York reveal.
Oh, sure. I mean, and everybody knows I'm a Journe fan. That is not going to be my Miami watch because that's, well into the 6 figures, I imagine, that piece right there. But so it will happen at some point in my life.
I'm not sure.
Hopefully.
Is that a 6-figure watch?
Well, retail is 6-figure for sure. Pre-owned, I'd have to look it up.
I have no idea. So that's Federico. That's not necessarily his Miami watch. Show us your Miami watch.
Well, I don't know what it is. But if it had to be on this table, probably the
5980.
Nautilus 5980 in rose gold with the alligator strap. Nice chunky case, date complication, central second chrono. Honestly, I'd probably put this on a bracelet, just because alligator straps are $500 a pop, and in this humidity, they'd probably last me a couple months. But yeah, it's probably my pick for the Miami watch on the table right now. Even though I have to show one more here, Faline, is this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Dual Time. Slightly smaller, but also on the alligator band and that beautiful rose gold case. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat a noble, precious metal Genta piece, isn't it?
Well, I'll say this. That's a rose gold watch that I could live with. I'm not a huge fan of rose gold, as we know from the Ariel Adams episode. But
No, you're not. But we all know I am.
that's a fact. Federico Styles. Question from Watch Addict. Omega Dynamic Chronograph. Why does nobody own those? Just discovered them today. Question for Tim Masso. Okay, I assume we're talking about the late 1990s, like modular Omega Dynamic Chronograph. Honestly, here's the thing. When people think a smaller modular Omega automatic chronograph from the 90s, they think the Speedy reduced.
Yeah.
And then you're battling with the Schumachers and the Cart Special Edition. You're battling with the standard Speedmaster reduced that looks like a mini Moonwatch. And that's a big and compelling class of watches, especially since the Schumachers are now considered to be collectible.
Hugely collectible.
Then you take the name Dynamic, and people think of the watch from the 70s. They think of the old Omega Dynamic. And that's what they have in mind. So they see the one from the 90s, the Chrono, and they say that just doesn't fit my mental image of what an Omega Dynamic is.
And also another thing, we forget that the Dynamic, while not very popular right now, the Chrono 5 or 6 years ago was trading sub $1,000. We're talking $800. I know because this was on my list of watches I wanted to buy. And I was recently looking them up, and while they're not particularly popular, the prices have more than doubled. I mean, you can't really pick up a nice Dynamic right now for less than $1,500-$1,600.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The guys who are into the vintage Dynamic with the kind of cushion profile, the one that was designed not to interfere with the wrist bone when worn, those guys don't identify with that 1990s Omega Dynamic chronograph. And the people who are into Omega chronographs are generally into the Speedy Pro and limited editions. The subset of Omega fans who are into automatic 90s modular chronographs are all thinking of the reduced, the Schumachers, and the special edition reduceds, and things like the Japan-only editions. So the Dynamic just gets lost between two classes of collectors, and there's really no overlap between them. So it just gets it falls between the cracks.
And now they're no longer a good deal either.
True. Which is to say, though, maybe you get on board now if you like the watch.
Sure.
Before it accelerates away. Okay, so this is from Murtaza Hussein asking FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu or Patek Philippe World Time 5110. Okay.
Oof.
I'll say this. The decision to be made here is which one do you like the look of better? I like the look of the Chronomètre Bleu. I want to say the 5110 was roughly 2000 to 2006 when it was replaced. So a lot of people think of that as the definitive modern Patek Philippe World Time. A lot of people like its profile, its size, its proportions, and its references to its 1950s predecessors. But here's the thing for me. I love the Chronomètre Bleu. That's, in my opinion, the FP Journe to own. Unless you can get this one, in which case I revise that statement.
I say Chronomètre Bleu 100%. Tim, what is the newer version of this? The 5110, 51...
Yeah, well, actually, the 5131 is still in production as the Cloisonné version. The 5230 came out last year at Basel World. So you can get the Cloisonné enamel one, which is the 5131.
Well, but yeah,
the 5130 replaced the 5110.
Okay, perfect. Because I find the 5110, thank you, by the way, for the reference numbers. That's not really my thing. I find them to be a little bit of the stepchild in the World Time family. And the purists might disagree with me, but I find the 5130 to be slightly bigger. It wears a little better for modern wrists. And the 5110 has certainly not as appreciated anywhere near as much as the modern 5130. So it is about the price of a Chronomètre Bleu. And even though you're getting the complication, I say Chronomètre Bleu all day long. Personally.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to do the Patek World Time thing, the 5110 is I'm going to say it's probably the modern purist's watch. If you're not in the market for a seriously heavy-duty piece like a 1950s 2523, the 5110 is the one to get. But for me, the Chronomètre Bleu has an elegant simplicity to it and a quirkiness with the tantalum and the iridescent blue dial that I absolutely dig. It's almost the genre that proves the rule as the exception. So I'm going to go with the Chronomètre Bleu. Federico, you're going with the Chronomètre Bleu.
Chronomètre Bleu, and I'm also going to disagree with you. I think the 5130 is going to be way more of a classic than the 5110, but only time will tell.
The ultimate investment among them, if you can't get the 25-23 vintage, is to get a 5131, which is an application piece within that family. That's on like the scale of a minute repeater in terms of obtainability.
Oh, and it trades at double retail all day long. If you can't get an application, you have to pay double retail.
And if you buy one and you sell it, you get on the bad list.
Which has happened to me. I made a whole video about that.
Call for Christmas. Okay, so question from David Hefkin, who said, Tim, why are you so into JLC, basically? He loves JLC. What are my personal reasons for collecting JLC?
Oh, people would love to hear this, actually.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit, because I know Federico wants to make a whole, like, Tim Masso behind the music episode. I don't know if we're going to do that, but I will give, like, a long-form answer to this someday.
Please.
Okay, so I love Jaeger-LeCoultre because of two reasons. First, their reputation and their history and their range of competence. They've done everything. It's almost like that old saying, before anyone did anything, Elvis did everything. And that's kind of true of Jaeger-LeCoultre. They have a back catalog that drops jaws, and you could build books of scholarship on everything that they've done that's been superb and influential and defining of the brand in the industry. But on a more personal level, apart from that intellectual stuff, when I was becoming a watch fan in the early 2000s and right up to about 2005, 2006, I started to see on rare occasions at, Tourneau in the used case, at local jewelers, examples of the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master and Master Compressor watches and Reverso Duos from the 90s, and handling those watches, they had a solidity and a quality and an honesty to them. It's a brand I had honestly never heard of, and yet the stuff proved its case in the hand time and time again. So with no hype, no appearances alongside James Bond, no celebrity ambassadors, no real following on the then burgeoning watch internet besides old wrinkled men in Western Europe, the watch made its case to me, and the brand compelled me to fall in love with it on the basis of the pieces I actually experienced. And to me, that's the truest kind of watch love, when you see it and you hold it and you've really never heard of it, and it wins you over.
Wow, Tim. I mean, I've got a little tear here. That's very pure reasoning behind your love for such a great brand.
So you've got the two pieces. You've got the emotional and the personal, and then just the fact that they're a great manufacturer. So, David, that's the short form answer. Someday we'll get all my watches on the show. We'll do a little Q&A and collector's profile.
Oh, you heard it here. I'm working on this, guys. I need to show his collection on camera because it's truly special.
You guys know I'm working on a JLC book, so that's coming too. And I want to complete my collection before I share it, because then, we get to talk about future directions on the roadmap. By the way, this year, JLC celebrating the anniversary of the 1937 Compass camera. Just milestones along the road. Okay. Afternoon from the Dominican Republic. Welcome, Mr. Mutton Hollow. Thank you so much for joining us. And, guys, speaking of Zenith, question from Stangl. What do we think of the CP2? We talked a little bit about that, but sum it up, Federico.
I think it's great. Listen, it's hopefully going to become one of the staple watches in their collection that'll give a little bit of a face to the faceless Zenith. I think it's going to sell very, very well. I think it's a good move, but, time will tell. I mean, I think you agree. You like the CP2 as well.
Yeah, I do. I liked the original, and I was telling people as recently as, like the beginning of 2016, get on board these things on the vintage side. They made like 2,500 of them from 65 to 70.
Yeah.
Because they're collectible, they're awesome, and, they haven't been Hodinkeyed to death on the auction block, so you could still sort of buy them as of a year ago. So I like the recreation, and I think it's a pretty honest, handsome, and faithful recreation. Plus, there was a Purists Pro 15th Anniversary Edition, and I love Purists Pro.
And that is a much more pure internet community to pay homage to than most others.
Yeah.
The Purists Pro forums.
My circle of watch snobs. Plus, I'm still anonymous on the Purists Pro forum. People don't know who I am there, so I get to fly below the radar. Every once in a while, someone will post something about something I said, and I'll be like, oh, look at it's me. Stay cool. So, questions. Nicholas G asks, I'm looking for a 5th piece to round out my 5-piece core collection, and I thought I'd ask you guys for some advice. I'm looking to buy new, and I have a top budget of $8,500 US. My current 4 core watches, and Faylene has a picture of each of them. Rolex Milgauss Z Blue.
Beautiful watch.
Grand Seiko Blizzard. SPGA 125. Love
Beautiful
it.
dial.
Spring Drive Power Reserve. Very cool. Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 15400 black dial.
Fantastic everyday piece.
It's the steel black dial version of this watch right here. So halfway between the offshore and a traditional 39. Good wrist presence. And the Alanga und Zona 1815 up down in white gold.
Beautiful. That is 39 millimeter, correct? Because they also made the 1815 up and down in 35 millimeter.
Yeah, this is the 39.
Okay, so a dressier piece, maybe not the cleanest style because it's got a little bit of complication.
But that's kind of the thing. Langa's a little bit about having off-balance asymmetrical dials. And this one's fairly symmetrical by the standard of the Langa 1. So Federico, you've got 3 suggestions for our man Nicholas, and explain your reasoning.
So remember, 8,500 and below, and then must be new. All right, well, firstly, I'm going to say, and this is a pretty typical choice, but Speedmaster Professional, Omega Speedmaster Professional.
Okay, the no wrong answer.
No wrong answer. I think a lot of collectors love them in their collection. I'm particularly talking about the Hesalite crystal version. I love mine. It's a very interactive watch because it's manually wound, great history behind it, and the caliber is hard to argue with. I also, however, noticed you're missing a dive watch. And in the dive watch, you could go Rolex. Rolex sub is $8,650 retail now, so it's arguable to put it in there, but I'm not going to go Rolex. I'm going to go with the Panerai PAM 24, the submersible. Yes, it's an Eta caliber, but it's a chronometer. It's a Panerai, a lot of personality, Italian design, very funky history, and if you love straps, you have a ton of options. And I think it's a little bit different for a dive watch. It's off the cuff. And then, of course, I've also noticed you don't have a pure dress watch. So I'm going to go with a very Tim Masso answer. And I'm going to say a steel Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso large. The Classique in large, no complication, single face.
Okay.
Very hard to argue with. So it all depends what you want. If you want the chrono, I think the Speedmaster Pro, great way to go. Diver, you're missing a diver, which is rare because most people's collections are diver rich. But I think the PAM 24, and if you want to go pure dress watch, even though your Lange 1815 does slot in there nicely, I think the Reverso has a ton of personality. You get a great amount of watchmaking for the money.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to argue with. Some typical choices in there, but you have a very atypical collection to begin with, which is interesting, I think.
Okay, so my answers are a little bit wackier, and I did not plant that Reverso answer from Federico.
No, you didn't. I actually came up with that myself.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
So, Nicholas, here's the thing. Right out of the gate, I'm going to say, since you own so many bedrock models from great brands, you need a wacky watch, and I've got 3 of them. So, Ox und Junior. Okay, Ludwig Oxlin, the guy who used to be a complication savant, especially as celestial complications and calendars were regarded with Ulysse Nardin for the better part of 30 years. But what happened was he founded Oxen Jr. in Lucerne with his son, hence the Junior. And this is the guy who created an annual calendar that you can buy for $7,500 from Oxen Jr. using the same 5-piece planetary design that he pioneered with Ulysse Nardin on top of a absolutely bomb-proof ETA automatic caliber. On the parts that they make, they offer a lifetime warranty, which is bold. And
very bold.
Titanium, 39 millimeters or 42 millimeters, automatic winding, and here's the great part. You can customize, just like I made with my Tim Masso Signature Edition on their watch customizer. So not only $7,500 US, assuming you don't buy within Switzerland and pay the VAT, you're getting a watch that you can literally customize down to the color of the individual hands and the indices. And you can see my highly questionable taste in colors on the screen right now, but
Oh my god.
fully custom. Yeah.
That's a surprise even to me, man. Wow.
This is like the Ferrari customizer and how deep and into the weeds you can get in customizing your watch. So get a complication from a modern master of complications, and Oxlin belongs in any collection as a flagship piece despite the price. So customize your own, get his annual calendar, and be ready to explain to everyone you meet where it came from and what it is, because this is no Speedmaster Professional.
A true story piece.
Exactly, and it'll be yours, because trust me, if yours looks like mine, it looked like no one else's. Jaeger LeCoultre Master Control. This is actually not a wacky watch. This is a modern classic from the JLC collection, but I noticed that a lot of the watches you have are very traditional, and this watch would fit well into your collection. 39mm steel case, caliber 899, Master Control, so the tolerance is -1 + 6 seconds for this model of very, very tightly controlled, better than COSC chronometer. The Master Control was introduced in 1992 as the Master Grand Tai, and it was the debut of JLC's fully assembled, cased-up in-house watch chronometry test. And it was a real trendsetter, both as a model and as a testing principle. Today, everyone has their in-house testing standards.
They do. Well, actually, I think maybe fewer than people would think, believe it or not. I have a few stories that we could save for the next episode in regards to that.
I will say, though, everyone from Rolex to Patek Philippe to Mont Blanc to Panerai has rolled out some kind of proprietary testing standard. The Master Control was the father of them all, and this is one of the few that is actually to a standard higher than COSC and fully cased up.
Which very few people know about, by the way.
It's true.
Which is a shame.
So the Master Control for $6,350 US with the black dial, the version that came out in 2015, is a killer watch to me, a versatile watch. It can be worn with anything by anyone, and absolutely unpretentious, which I love. And finally, back into a wacky mode here, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Basel World 2017, this was one of my highlights, and for only $2,150, this is like buying a few links of a Patek Philippe Nautilus bracelet. And I mean like 2 or 3. The Rado True Stratum.
Wow.
Part of their designer series.
Way out of left field.
Part of their designer series, designed in conjunction with Austrian artist Rainer Mutsch. He's best known for his furniture and interior design. This thing has an epic dial that looks like terraced Japanese farming. It's absolutely gorgeous with its depth. It has a cap over the hands that floats over the dial. It has gradient to its dial, it has depth to its dial, it has texture to its dial, and it has color with the yellow shocks.
This is one of the watches that obviously you introduced me to. I need to see this in real life. If only we had a Rado dealer a little closer to our office here.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, at Watch You Want, we have a Rado parts account for servicing watches. We just never see Rado. Rado, what's up? Send me some watches. Free publicity.
What's going on with that? No love for the Rado.
Tim at Watch You Want. Let's make it happen. But this watch, 40mm, automatic winding, full ceramic case, full ceramic bracelet, so it's going to stay pretty. We talked about DLC before, how we don't really love the concept. Ceramic is a good answer in a watch that's not a sports timepiece, that's not going to be your beater.
It's going to last a lot longer. It won't scratch. Yes, you could crack it if it falls in a certain position.
Yeah, if you do something crazy.
But overall, it's a ton, quite a bit tougher than ADLC ever will be.
Yeah, if you're not the type to break a sapphire crystal, you're not the type to break a ceramic case, especially since this one has blended lugs, not the straight lugs that you see on those Panerai cases that are always fracturing.
Snap right off, yeah.
Plus, automatic 80-hour power reserve CO7 ETA movement, a real ETA this day and age, that's not a given. 80 hours power reserve. It's even got a little bit of horological interest, and at 40mm, you're going to wear it on just about any wrist with elegance. So that is my third selection.
Very, very interesting choices. I've got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the Oxen Jr.
Okay.
It's just a look thing to me.
Was it the green?
Well, no, I actually liked it better with the green than I do with the original. I think it's just a little too simplistic for me. I'm more of a traditional guy. But that being said, I love the True Stratum.
Okay, so I loved Federico's choices. Honestly, he continued the theme of building your collection with bedrock, iconic watches that are like the one watch if you were to buy from their respective brands. And I went a little bit off the rails with the exception of the semi-sober Master Control Black Dial, but that's the diversity of opinion that we bring to the table.
Well, that's what you get here, Watch One, right? A little bit. Actually, I'm usually the crazy one. Why are you taking my thunder?
Well, I'm the eccentric who writes the stupid show, so...
Fair enough.
I'm the man behind the curtain. But I will say this. Nicholas said, he wants to buy new, so sorry, Watch You Want, but I've got good news for you, Nicholas. Govberg, our parent company, carries just about all these brands, so fire away.
Govberg.com, tell them Tim and Federico sent you.
So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I see the questions in the chat box. I'm going to recover some of them for our Friday show. Josh Thanos is going to be back with me. Guys, remember, our new Talking Hands channel, it's called Watch You Want Watch Reviews, and I've got a huge backlog of videos I've filmed. Federico's going to be taking 2 to 3 live every day. Only one notification so we don't spam your inbox, but you'll know to look for the rest. So guys, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to this channel, subscribe to that channel. I'm Tim.
I'm Federico.
She's Faylene. This is Watch You Want, one of many now. And thanks for logging on.
Take care.